there are some aspects of Killer Colleagues that I really, really thoroughly enjoyed. And there are some aspects that really irritated me and really kind of detracted from what could otherwise have been a really interesting episode or a really fascinating narrative. So I'm very much on the fence with whether I think this was really good or just average. And I'll talk a little bit about the things that kind of irked me, but I also want to talk, of course, about the things that I really enjoyed. I'm going to do this without giving any spoilers to the best of my ability. This does, of course, detail, I think, 10 episodes, is it 10 cases of true crime stories where a colleague has been murdered by another colleague. Sometimes these are in their work environments. Sometimes a colleague has sought out their colleague in their own home, or, they've tracked them down in other ways. And I think that's a really interesting concept. I've never really explored that much. But I guess when you work in such close proximity with people 5 days a week or more, 40 hours plus sometimes, there's going to be tension. And this really kind of exercises that information. And one thing I really like about this is that the stories are all different. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to get the negatives out of the way first. And really there is only one negative, I'll be perfectly honest. 2 negatives technically. The second and less important negative is that I just felt some of the episodes were weak. They weren't interesting. I didn't think there was enough meat for the story to be told in a full episode, which is kind of an average 45 minutes, hour in length. Some of them just were not that interesting and were quite dull. But that was few and far between. Also, the British ones, and actually I think some of the American ones, if I'm not mistaken, because it's a mix of stories, which I really like. Kind of British crime, American crime stories. I love them both. Great to have a mixed bag here. Trisha Goddard was given commentary on them, and I don't understand why. I think the caption they used was something like relationship expert or strained relationship counsellor or something. And I think, well, yeah, maybe she could have commented on what the work and relationships would have been like and how that could have caused tension. But she was just basically, in an interview style, recounting the events and talking about, how important the forensics were and things. And I'm thinking, well, you're not an expert. I want to hear these from an expert or somebody who was involved in the case. So that really bugged me, because I felt like I wasn't being given an expert viewpoint. It could have literally been anybody. But once I kind of made peace with that, and it's not every episode as well, I was able to enjoy it. So yes, negative things out of the way, everything else is great. I'll pick out some specific episodes and talk a little bit about them just to give you a flavour of what it's like. But I'll just say, in terms of how it's edited and put together, it's really good. We do hear from experts, as well as Trisha Goddard. And, it really makes use of CCTV footage and things, and, crime scene photos, and anything that it has at its disposal. It worked really well, and I was really pleased with how it was all woven together. I have no complaints about the actual structure of each episode. So the first episode I want to touch on briefly. I'm not going to spoil kind of what actually happened, because the episodes don't reveal everything to begin with, though they do often reveal the killer and the victim. This one is about Attila Ban, who was a fantastic hotel worker. He rose up the ranks to manager. He lived in the hotel, and then he gets a flatmate, and then another girl becomes involved, and there's a lot of jealousy. And what happened after the fact with this one, I thought was really fascinating, and this was definitely one of my favourites in terms of finding it being the most engaging and the most entertaining. It sounds mean, but it was engaging, it's gripping. That's what these are designed for. Then there's one about Amy Bishop, and she seemed like a normal, average, everyday person, but the more they dug into her past after she shot several colleagues, because she was vengeful, her past became really quite dark, and it's kind of like if they picked up on these things earlier, maybe this could have been avoided. Also, the 3 colleagues she chose to shoot were the 3 that had been helping her in various things at work. So it's just baffling, and it's really quite one of the most emotional ones, because it's just It's really so bizarre. I also really like the one about Daniel Edwards, who murdered a relatively elderly woman who kept horses. This one was quite different because Daniel Edwards had some level of diminished responsibility. It was really interesting to hear how the court cases panned out and things. That one is set in England. The other two I mentioned, no, the Attila Ban one was a British one, I think. Yes, and the Amy Bishop one was definitely an American case. The Mitchell Sims and Ruby Padgett is definitely worth looking out for, because this is a really bizarre one about a string of murders revolving around a pizza shop, and it's gruesome and definitely one of the most detailed in terms of what the culprits did. And okay, I'll pick one more. It's Natavia Lowery, who was a celebrity real estate agent, and it's all about her death. And I will say the culprit in this one is probably the most surprising out of all of the criminals in this series. So that's definitely worth watching. They're all definitely worth watching. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I watched it on Now TV. Obviously, it's a Sky crime thing. I can see that it is actually available to watch on Sky Crime. So if you have Sky, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to watch it on there. I do not have Sky, so God bless Now TV. It's brilliant. Killer Colleagues, I like the unique concept. I like that it's focusing specifically on colleagues who kill. For most of us who work, that's a slightly terrifying concept. But it's fascinating, very well presented, very well done. Apart from Trisha Goddard not really having a reason to be there, and just some of the episodes being a bit weaker. It's pretty great, and I probably will actually watch some of the episodes again.